Hey guys! So, as you probably already know, I went down to California last week to link up with Jimmy CONRAD for the uninitiated, to collaborate, and I wanted to have a video of us basically just speaking on camera. Well, I know what you're saying, that's what you do every single time, but I mean conversing on camera. This is a little less graphics heavy, a little less polished of a video, but I figured it would be something fun to have on while you're making your breakfast, or eating your breakfast, or maybe when you're washing your dishes after you had breakfast, or listen to it while you're in the shower. Let us hop in the shower with ya. So yeah, enjoy it. And if you did enjoy this more podcasty type video, be sure to let me know in the comments and I'll see if I can do a few more of these in the future. We tried to focus solely on transfers as sort of a preview for the upcoming transfer window, but of course we got a little bit sidetracked along the way. But hey, it's just like when you're conversing with friends, am I right? Oh yeah, and as the title says, this is just part 1 of 3 videos. Okay, take it away, Adrian. What's up? I'm Adrian from Rabona TV, as you know, and with the transfer window opening in about just under 3 weeks, I figured why not take a look at all the signings from the summer, you know, see how they're doing. Are they flops? Are they slamming it? What teams neglected areas that they really had to make signings in? But since there's so many leagues and there's so many teams and even more signings that were made, we can't cover them all. So unfortunately, for this video, we're only going to be looking at the big boys from the top 5 leagues, you know, England, France, Italy, Spain, Germany. But even that is a ton of teams and it's a lot of heavy lifting for one weak little Canadian boy. So, I got a guy. He's, you know, he's pretty formidable. We'll bring him in for some help. It is...
Hey!
Jimmy CONRAD.
Hey,
you
what's
know
up?
him.
Yeah.
You love him.
You do.
Jimmy, how you doing? How you feeling today?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. Excited to talk about transfers. I mean, in the past though, right? It's not...
This is
it's
past
not the
tense.
future.
Yeah,
past
yeah.
tense.
Past tense. But
okay.
We can look to the future as well. That's what it's all about. It's all transfers. Whether they're going to be happening, whether they haven't already.
Okay.
The flips, the flops, all of them.
Okay.
And I figured why don't we start with one of the teams that I think did a really good job of showing ambition in this previous transfer window, and that was PSG.
Everton. Oh, sorry.
Oh, wait, yeah, Everton.
Sorry.
I mean, I was going to say West Brom. No, PSG.
PSG.
I think with the signing of Neymar, say what you will about the price tag and if it's good for the game or whatever. In signing Neymar and bringing in Dani Alves and in bringing in Mbappe on a loan, one of those, I mean, they're basically doing their best to take the Champions League next, right?
Oh, there's no question. They're definitely going for the Champions League. I think winning League is something they've done multiple times since the new ownership took over. They've won the cup. You know, they've won all the cups that's possible in France. There's only one thing they're chasing now, and that's the Champions League trophy. I'm sure winning the FIFA Club World Cup would be a nice addition to the trophy cabinet as well.
Of course.
Really, where I liked their ambition, and I think what's been a quietly good signing for them that maybe doesn't get talked about enough, is Julian Draxler. I think he's just a nice complement to the players that they are signing. He could be a star in his own right, but he seems to have agreed to take a back seat in some capacity and to fill a role. And when you have guys like him, they end up being almost the most vital part of the team because they're the glue. Right. They can transition the defense to offense and get the balls to Neymar in better spots than if he had to go do that work himself. So I really like the Draxler stuff. I think it started there. If PSG isn't in the Champions League final, or at least pushing to get there, I'd be really surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. Me as well. And, I mean, looking to the January transfer window, I mean, January is always a weird month. We'll get that out of the way right away. January, we don't expect many transfers to happen. They could happen. They don't always come off. But if you were the PSG, if you were Unai Emery, who would you look, or what position rather would you look to improve right now?
It's hard. I don't know. I don't know if there is a position. I mean, they're playing well. They're doing everything that they need to do. Maybe you look for a center back that could potentially give you some cover. Yeah. You know, when you're trying to win multiple competitions. But outside of that, I don't know. I mean, unless you hear some rumblings behind the scenes where Cavani might be really upset about how things are transpiring, that's possible, about maybe being open to moving him. But I don't really see it. I'm not the biggest Unai Emery fan. I think you alluded to that with your... But I think there's better managers out there that maybe can get him to the promised land. Obviously, he won the Europa League with Sevilla multiple times, and I think that's why they hired him, because he's good in these European competitions. But this might be too much talent for him, too much ego to handle.
So basically, no more signings because it's already
they're
uncontrollable.
done.
Yeah,
I don't. Can they spend any more money? I mean, who else is out there?
Is that allowed?
Is that allowed?
They'd have to pull off more loans. Mbappe style. And so another team that I thought did extremely well in the summer transfer window, didn't waste any time, fixing their goalkeeper position, getting rid of Claudio Bravo, the famous Chilean dodgeball player, and bringing in Ederson, who's been incredible for them. As well, they got their back line up and running with Danilo, Mendy, Kyle Walker. They got 3 fullbacks, which is, you don't see that too often in one transfer window.
But they're also now using Fabian Delph at left back. So in some ways, you know, the pressure of all these top guys coming in has forced other guys to step up. And I think you see it with the signings that they made in the past with Kevin De Bruyne and Leroy Sané and Raheem Sterling. Everybody's raised their game. You get the sense with that team in particular that everybody's expendable.
Yeah.
Like, if you rock the boat in any sense, you're out. And I think that's a nice vibe to have with the team, assuming that it's a healthy thing and then turning into something positive, which I think is what we're seeing with Man City.
For sure, and I think that was illustrated perfectly with the beginning of the season when it was looking like, whoa, is Sergio Aguero sort of on the outs here?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, where he was getting pressure from, well, hey, Gabriel Jesus is doing fine leading the line, you know? So I think you're right. I think the competition there is extremely healthy, and that's exactly what Guardiola needs. Because, I mean, if you look at his past teams, they've always been stacked. Bayern was stacked, Barcelona was stacked, everyone was pressuring each other to perform to their best, and now he has that situation going on at City, and they're looking unstoppable.
I think Pep's done a really good job of finding some younger players that he knew probably weren't going to pan out right away, like Jesus and Sané, and even Sterling to a certain extent, where he could have moved Sterling. I'm sure there was a lot of interest in moving him, especially since he's English and you have to fill those slots. But he stuck with those guys, and now I'm getting the sense that you got these older guys. I think Sergio Aguero is probably the best name to throw out, even David Silva, who are going to help with the transition to the next generation. And I think it's obvious that they're key now, but they're not going to be key moving forward as these other guys start to continue to play better and better and realize their potential. So I think he's doing a really nice job of handling that transition, that natural progression. As much as it hurt to be an older player knowing that you weren't the guy that the team counted on anymore to that same extent, it's just part of how careers go, and it's a sad part of how careers go, but it's a necessary evil, and you have to get on with it. And the more mature you are about that situation, I think Sergio Aguero has been great.
Absolutely.
But I don't want to see Sergio Aguero playing at West Brom in 2 years. I hope he just kind of falls out into a nice situation so his career can end on a high note.
Okay, last point on Manchester City. Is there any position that you think needs filling? Because there's rumors of them maybe going off Grimaldo from Benfica. He's a left back. But they just signed 3 in the last transfer window. Do they need another one?
I think it would probably help. You know, Fabian Delph, I don't think it's a natural left back. And I don't think no. I'm pretty sure that's pretty clear. But he's done well. And he plays within the system. He plays within his strengths. You know what I mean? He doesn't try to go outside of what he's capable of. And I think you need players like that on the field that are just going out there to do their job and to do it well. I think Mendy's too busy doing Snapchats and stuff after Raheem Sterling scores. He really loves the Snapchat. I respect the Snapchat game, but at the same time, you gotta still be a professional. I don't know. I mean, I still feel like there's room for a center back. Vincent Kompany is always getting hurt. It doesn't seem like Pep has always been sold on Mangala being the guy to kind of be the reserve in a pinch. John Stones, though improving, still John Stones for me. He's always kind of a mistake away from like the whole thing falling apart. And then Otamendi, who I do like, and I rated pretty highly last season. I feel like he needs a vocal person next to him. Yeah. Like, Otamendi's not the guy running point in the back. He's just like the watchdog that's like tracking the ball. He's a good reaction guy. Yeah. But in terms of anticipation, I think you need somebody else that has a lot more experience. I don't know who that player is. I think everybody's in the market for center backs. I think there's a lot of teams that need them. And I don't know who's out there that really stands out as like, you need to sign that person.
You available?
I'm always available. I think I'd fit in well to that team because I'd have to defend, I don't know, 30% of the time, kind of like the old Pep Barcelona teams where Puyol and Piqué had to defend 5 minutes a game and they could smoke a cigarette the rest of the time. Yeah, I'm down to sign up for that.
Now, Bayern Munich, a team that's always so smart with their transfer dealings. Sometimes they sign players 2 years ahead of time, it seems, from all their opposition. And they did it again last summer, or last winter now, with the signings of Sule and Rudy from Hoffenheim. I thought those were great signings. And they also brought in Corentin Tolisso from Lyon, 23 years old. I think he's going to be a good natural successor to Javi Martinez. And then, of course, the creme de la creme, they got James Rodriguez on a 2-year loan from Real Madrid with a final buyout of about 40 million, I think, is the final price.
Yeah, I think these were signings that were more reflective of what's going to happen in 2 years' time. That's why I think the 2-year loan was smart, because you still have Arjen Robben and Franck Ribéry still feeling like they're major parts of the team. It was going to be hard for James Rodriguez to slot into a new league with new players and just figure it out right away. I've always believed James is better for his national team anyway than any club that I've seen him play for, but You know, with the other guys, the guys they sold from Hoffenheim, I think there's dual purpose. You get some of Hoffenheim's best players who were on the up and up and looking to potentially compete with Bayern, which Bayern does a great job of, right? They either steal the best players from Borussia Dortmund, or they steal them from Hoffenheim, or they're going to probably steal them from RB Leipzig here in the future, and so they can maintain their dominance. Tolisso is a good signing, but again, I think it's still one for the future. You get him used to how Bayern works, you get him used to the culture, living in Munich, and then you slowly start to bring him into the team. Now, obviously, getting rid of Carlo Ancelotti to bring in Jupp Heynckes is a good move, I think, for the team overall, but I think Ancelotti had a lot of say in the players that came. So it'll be interesting to see, now that Heynckes is in charge, if they hire somebody else as coach at the end of the season, or if he stays on, who he likes to bring in, because I think he likes a certain type of player. And I honestly don't believe that James Rodriguez is his type of player.
No, I don't think so either. And also, I mean, like you said, Ancelotti's the guy that brought in a player like Renato Sanchez. Who is he going to fit in with the next manager's plan? You know, is he even going to fit in with Jupp Heynckes' plan if he ends up staying with Bayern at the end of the season? So, I don't know, but again, like you said, Bayern is just so good at nabbing all the top talent from around the league, and I think they're probably going to end up doing it again with players like the guy from Schalke. I always forget his name. I forgot his name yesterday when we were talking too.
Which position?
Goretzka.
Oh, Goretzka.
Goretzka. Yeah. I think they're going to end up doing that with Goretzka too. Probably sign him on a pre-transfer or a pre-contract.
Unless Manchester United gets there first.
Which could happen.
Which could happen.
But I mean, we'll get to Manchester United a little later.
Okay.
And now to a team that's very close to my heart, Inter Milan.
Oh, yeah.
You know Inter Milan.
I do.
You gotta love Inter Milan. They brought in guys like Vecino in center defensive mid. You know, he has Serie A experience, the Uruguayan. They brought in Borja Valero, another guy with Serie A experience. João Cancelo in on loan from Valencia. Great young Portuguese guy. I'm not sure if there's a buyout at the end of that one, but it might have been sort of a swap because they also sent Kondogbia and Jason Murillo over to Valencia as well. So so they did a good job of getting rid of some of the dead weight or the guys that they thought could be good next season, the season after, and also bringing in really quality players that just amped up their squad even more. But you have a take on what their most important signing was, and that is
their manager, Luciano Spalletti. I think he has done wonders with the team. It always felt like Inter, especially in recent years, were in disarray ever since Jose Mourinho left. They never seemed to have anybody that settled the team. And it was always going to be hard after you win the treble to match that. You know, even Bayern Munich, after Jupp Heynckes won it, to bring them back into the equation. They hired Pep Guardiola of all managers the next time. They couldn't match it. They couldn't get the treble. So it was always going to be hard for them to maintain that, especially after Mourinho left. And it's been, I don't know, a little up and down until now. Luciano Spalletti has definitely brought in some players that you mentioned, but more than the players, I feel like it's a ethos, a philosophy, a style, a pride that you have to have your oldest players buy into. And as your captain, Mauro Icardi, has shown, I think he's now of age where he can be a true leader. Yeah, I always felt like he was pretty young to be a captain and a little reckless, right? He would. He'd either talk trash to the fans after a game or whatever, and I feel like that stuff has passed. You know, his off-the-field relationship with a former player's wife, you know, all that stuff that's kind of been associated with him. Enough time has passed for him to kind of, all right, be the guy. Now he's still scoring a lot of goals. He's having a great season. And Luciano Spalletti's been the manager of Roma for many years and could never really get over the hump. And I feel like because Inter is not in any European competitions, they could, like Chelsea last season, really use that to their advantage. They don't have the pressure, they don't have the extra travel, they don't have any of that other stuff. Whereas Napoli and Juventus, who I think are the only other two teams that are going to compete for the title, have all that other stuff. So you know, even if they fall out of the Champions League, they'll probably still be in the Europa League, and it's just a lot to manage. Inter doesn't have any of that.
I'll fully agree with that. I think I even said in my, yeah, of course, as I should. I think I even said in my preseason predictions that I think that with Luciano Spalletti, it doesn't matter who they signed. Because he has that experience with Roma. He went off, where did he go? He went to Zenit or something like that?
I think so.
He went off to Zenit. He grew a little facial hair thing.
Flavor saver.
Yeah, he got that flavor saver going. And he came back. Roma, I don't know exactly the details of what went wrong at Roma, but him and the board or whatever didn't really get along. And now I feel like he's at a team that has the funding. They made great signings. Like Dalbert was one of the best fullbacks in the Liga last season. I don't know. I didn't think they would be contenders, but now it's looking like they could just steal it from Napoli.
It's almost like Napoli and Juventus are going to kind of chop each other's knees, and that'll allow Inter to say, thank you very much, I'll take this. Pretty impressed with Inter on a lot of different levels this season.
All right, let's talk about a team that sort of surprised me with how well they did in the transfer market this past summer, because when you look at Barcelona's signings on paper, and we're going to count Deulofeu as a signing, even though he sort of was all over the world and then came back. And then there's Nelson Semedo, who for me as a Benfica fan, I thought, okay, good, he's good, but I don't know if he's consistent enough for Barcelona, and that's a huge step going from Benfica to there. And then Paulinho, and that's a signing that when I saw it, you look at the midfields of the past in Barcelona and you see names like Iniesta, Xavi, Busquets, and then they bring in Paulinho, who wasn't great at Tottenham and then went off to China for a while. I don't know. It didn't do it for me, but...
Well, he actually does do it for me. I thought they maybe overpaid for him, so there was a big number attached to him when he was over in China. But I think there's something that he brings to the table, and that's a little bit of grit and bite in the midfield. Now, they have Mascherano that was doing the same thing. I just don't think Mascherano can cover as much ground as he used to, and obviously they're starting to utilize him more in the back four. But he's a good leader, you know, Mascherano. But I think Paulinho, in particular, he does like to get forward. He does have a little of that Brazilian flair in him. And from what I understand, Messi asked him if he wanted to come to Barcelona. And I don't think Messi does that unless he realizes there's a gap, there's a void somewhere in the middle of midfield.
It's a great reference to have.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm sure Messi pulls a lot of strings that we're unaware of. But I would say that Iniesta obviously slowing down as he gets older. Busquets, for me, seems not as quick as he used to be.
No.
And it just feels like if you really want to protect your back four, you just need a little bit more of an enforcer. Now, I'll say Paulinho gets more box-to-box than I anticipated. I thought they were going to let him sit a little bit more. But it seems like Busquets is the guy that wants to be the pivot. And I understand. He's a great distributor of the ball, and his one-touch play is sublime, I think is the word I'm looking for. He's held his own. I think he's kind of the glue of the team in some capacity. And he's a signing that maybe surprised some people, but I think he's turned out to be... Yeah, myself included to a certain extent. That's been a nice, solid signing.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of a contrast to Real Madrid, who seems to like want to make that big giant signing all the time and make a big splash about, you know, we're Real Madrid, we're the most marketable team in the world, everybody knows who we are. And Paulinho is just like a really solid, kind of middle of the road signing who's actually played a big role for the team.
Yeah, I think so too. And another signing that I failed to mention, how could I forget? Ousmane Dembélé. He could be that next big star in world football. He could be, but it's just unfortunate that he's had this lengthy injury. And I think he'll get there, but even then, they still need another winger, in my opinion, because Deulofeu is not going to be the guy. If you want that front three of Suarez, Dembélé, Messi tucked behind, Deulofeu, not for me. I think they need someone else.
I agree. I think Coutinho could be a nice add. Where does he fit in? He seems more like an Iniesta type for me. And you need a replacement for Iniesta at some point. And he could probably play out in the wing and cut. I mean, the guy's an incredible player, so he can tackle a number of different roles.
Yeah, for sure.
But what I really like about Dembélé is that he's got a lot of speed, and I think he can help stretch defenses, which ultimately will allow for more space for Suarez and Messi to do their thing. I actually think the pressure was too much. Like you make a big signing to Barcelona like that. And
I think the pressure injured him.
Yeah, I do. I really do. I think there was just too much. Yeah. And when I think about hamstring injuries in my past, I never got hamstring injuries when everything was cool. In my life off the field.
Okay.
But on the field, when things off the field weren't going as well, like hamstring injuries, they just start
just pushing too hard.
Well, just pushing too hard, or there's stress. You're stressed.
Okay.
And it's hard to relax when you have this, I don't know, this thing that's floating around you. You know, it can be anything. It could be family trouble, it could be moving to a new team, it can be having a baby, it can be all kinds of different stuff. Yeah. And I don't know if a lot of that's talked about a lot, but I really feel like when I heard a hamstring injury, and given that it was so close to after he moved, and I'm sure there was pressure to perform and all this stuff and so much hype, that this injury, because it was 3 to 4 months, could be a blessing in disguise for him, because now he's gotten into the club without as much fanfare, no spotlight. He can transition, he can move, he can get a translator, he can kind of get all that stuff sorted out without also having to worry about playing. Yeah. And so much, it's probably disappointing on some levels. I'm sure it's been a real big benefit on others, and it's probably on the personal side. So the more comfortable he feels off the field, it's going to make him more comfortable on the field, and then you're going to get the best version of Ousmane Dembélé. But I still think he's a few years away from being the top guy. But I think he's going to be in the conversation with Mbappe. I think he's going to be pushing. Those two guys are going to be names we'll be talking about for a long time.
And France is going to be an exciting team if only Ousmane Dembélé could figure out what foot he likes to kick with. Alright, so that was part 1. And I'm sorry about bobbing up and down on that exercise ball. I mean, when given the choice between sitting still or bouncing and moving around, I'm always going to be moving around. Be sure to check out part 2 when I release it next Tuesday, and part 3 will be released next Thursday. Head on over to Jimmy's channel if you haven't subscribed already, but who am I kidding? Of course you have. I'm Adrian once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!